Greetings! Welcome to Hegel on the beach. And as you can see today, I've decided to come to that London with old Carl in the background to get a bit of a shot with him because I thought it's a bit of a change. But plus, today we're doing on Hegel on the beach, the ancient Greek world, family in ancient Greece. And paragraph 446 is the ethical world, human and divine law, man and woman. So because we're talking about the ancient Greece, I thought it's an interesting thing. If you look at what Marx was saying, remember I've said in a few videos, remember his view of what a real human is, which is hunting in the morning, fishing in the afternoon, and literary criticism in the evening. Yeah, remember that? That's a whole human being. That ties into what I think Hegel's saying about this part of the text in relation to ancient Greece and what people at his time thought of ancient Greece as contemporaries, what he thought. Did he think it was like this kind of ideal society and so on? So we're going to talk about this then in this story. So, okay, 446. How spirit, this Hegelian concept of spirit, manifests itself in the Greek world. Okay, so the spirit of Greek ethical life, it's divided into two parts. You've got human law, you've got divine law. And I've got lots of quotes here from Hegel. Sorry, Carl. I'm doing... Okay, lots of quotes from Hegel. Unfortunately. But he gets a bit less troubling here. He's a bit clearer. So 448, unless that thing blows down. Okay. This spirit can be called the human law because it is essentially, in the form of actuality, conscious of itself. In the form of universality, it is the well-known law and the prevailing custom. That means human law means government, in this case, the government of the Greek city-states by male citizens. Okay, it's men doing what ancient slave-owning males did, which is hang out at the gym, be macho, chat shit in the marketplace, and so on. Okay, so that is the human law. 449, confronting the ethical power and this ethical power and manifestability. There is, however, another power, the divine law. Okay, so state power arises in opposite, in contradiction to divine law. Divine law is the province of the family and woman. So human law male, divine law female. Okay. Paragraph 450. The family as the unconscious, still inner concept stands opposed to its self-conscious actuality. As the element of the people's actuality, it stands opposed to the people itself as immediate ethical being. It stands over and against the ethical order that forms and maintains itself by labour for the universal. Okay, same points as above. The gods of the household, the Penates, are opposed to the will of the state. Or in harmony, but conflict, you'll see it comes. So 451, the ethical relation between family members is not the relation of sensibility or the relation of love. Family's not about love. The positive purpose peculiar to the family is the singular as such. The singular means, I think it's one translation of the individual. The action then, which embraces the entire existence of the blood relative, does not concern him as a citizen, for the citizen does not belong to the family. It has as its object and content the single family member, as a universal essence, released from his sensory, i.e. singular actuality. It no longer concerns the living, but the dead, who, after the long succession of dispersed being there, has concentrated himself into a complete configuration and raised himself out of the unrest of contingent life into the calm of simple universality. So, okay, the main purpose of the Greek family, according to Hegel, is the deceased individual. Burial ceremonies make death a spiritual or human event rather than a merely natural event. But the Greeks celebrated individuality only after death. So a life only gets its meaning when it's over. And it sounds strange, but Hegel says that the purpose of the Greek family was to bury the dead ritually. Okay? Got one here. Got it. So, actually, in a sense, this is a kind of celebration of life or spirit, because the Greeks aren't saying that the human individual isn't just another bit of nature. Okay, so you don't just leave dead bodies out with the bins, do you? You celebrate them. I haven't said that. Actually, now there is a move towards funerals where you just dispose of the body, but I think that's because we've got a different concept of the individual and the meaning of a life. But moving on. Okay, So the fact that a person had a life and was human made it stand apart from and rise above nature. Okay, so it's no longer a natural act, burial. Your death is not just a natural act; it's a spiritual fact. It's not just a natural fact. I beg your pardon. It's a spiritual act. Okay, so this universality 452, to which the singleton, the individual, as such attains, is pure being, death. It is immediate, natural, having become, not the doing of a consciousness. For this reason, the duty of the family member is to add this side, so that his ultimate being too, this universal being, shall not belong solely to nature and remain something irrational, but shall become something done, and the right of consciousness be asserted in it. Okay, so the Greek male, because we're talking about fellas, aren't we? He breaks loose from his family ties. He becomes a citizen. He's not a baby anymore. He's a citizen. He returns to family in death. So, Greek city-states, Athens, Sparta, Thebes, even Syracuse and Sicily. These were all warrior states. And you had the hoplites. They were the citizen soldiers of these states. They were the free men of these states. And warfare seems to have been the raison d'etre of these states. So look at Sparta. I mean, Sparta is the best example. Warfare was its purpose. But Athens, even though with a beautiful art and so on, Athens was just the same. It was a war cult. So there's a quotation from, I've forgotten his name, but I'll quote it and I'll give you the name of the book. So, to pillage a country was a common practice in ancient warfare. In this respect, the period we are considering was no exception. Polybius is inclined to make the Aetolians responsible for the excessive prevalence of pillage and robbery at this time, but the other leading states adopted exactly the same methods. All belligerents were in the habit of raiding enemy territory to devastate it and secure as much booty as possible. Shortly after his reform in Sparta, Cleomenes invaded the territory of Megalopolis. He collected much booty and wrought great devastation of the country, says Plutarch. He did the same in the invasion of Argos after the city had been occupied by Antigonus. He laid waste the country and carried everything off. According to Plutarch, the only booty with which the belligerents could defray the expenses of a war, and most of them relied on doing this, consisted of men, whether free or slaves, and cattle. We may take it, therefore, as established life, we may take it, therefore, as established that life was very precarious in Greece in the 3rd century BC, and that personal liberty was as precarious as life. Many were free men one day and become slaves the next. The uncertainty of life, the precarious character of personal freedom, and the general instability of Greece were unfavourable to sound economic and social development. Add to this the permanent factors which, even in normal times, retarded the country's economic progress, the poverty of the soil, scarcity of minerals, timber, and other raw materials of industry, and above all, the inveterate particularism of the Greek city-states, the minute political subdivision of Greece, and the ambition of each city to dominate over the rest, peculiarities which found their expression not only in the political, but also the economic life of the country. That book, don't know the author, I've forgotten his name, but that's from the social and economic history of the Hellenistic world, okay, which tells you that it was shit, really, Greece, wasn't it? It wasn't a great place. So the beauty, though, that's nevertheless existed in ancient Greece, statues and art and so on, that was as real as, but it's fragile as a flower, a poisonous flower in a sense. But people have this very romanticized view of ancient Greece, okay? Still do, okay? So, but that's the economic and social backdrop. And of course, the beautiful image of ancient Greece in our museums and our literature, it has it in its spell even today. Back to Hegel and Greece, though, and the male-female division I've just hinted at just before. Okay, so Hegel sees the brother-sister relationship as an exemplar of the contradiction and harmony of Greek ethical life. Okay, Hegel goes on about Greek ethical life all the time. So, 457. The unmixed relationship, however, obtains between brother and sister. They are the same blood, which has, however, in them arrived at its rest and equilibrium. Consequently, the feminine, as sister, has the supreme presentiment of the ethical essence. She does not attain to consciousness or to the actuality of this essence, because the lord of the family is the internal essence, that is in itself an essence which does not lie in the daylight of consciousness, but remains internal feeling and the divine element exempt from actuality. So, what's it, long quote, what's he getting at? Brother and sister, gender difference in ancient Greece. This becomes explicit when he talks about Antigone by Sophocles. In the play by Sophocles, Antigone tries to bury her brother Polynices, and that's where the conflict comes between human law, the government of the male citizen, and female and divine law. That's what it's played out. We'll talk about that probably next time. Hegel, 459, back to him. So he passes from the divine law within whose sphere he lived, over, this is what the Greek citizen does, over to human law. But the sister becomes, or the wife remains, the head of the household and the guardian of the divine law. In this way, the two sexes overcome their natural essence and emerge in their ethical significance as diversities which share between them the two differences that the ethical substance assumes. These two universal essences of the ethical world, therefore, have their determinate individuality in naturally distinct self-consciousnesses. Self-consciousnesses. Okay. 460. The difference of the sexes and their ethical content remains, however, in the unity of their substance. Okay, it's one substance, the Greek city-state, and its movement is just the constant becoming of that substance. The man is sent out by the spirit of the family into the commonwealth and finds in this self-consciousness essence, in this his self-conscious essence, beg your pardon. So, just as the family in this way has in the commonwealth its universal substance and subsistence, so conversely, the commonwealth has in the family the formal element of its actuality, and in the divine law, its force and authentication. Neither of the two alone is in and for itself. Human law proceeds on its living movement from the divine, the law valid on earth from that of the netherworld, the conscious from the unconscious, mediation from immediacy, and equally returns whence it came. So the human law and the human law of men and the divine law of the family are related in this weird Greek city unit, okay? 463. In this way, the ethical realm and its subsistence in an immaculate world, I think he's taken the mickey, okay? A world unsullied by any discord, which it clearly isn't, because we see it in Antigone. Similarly, its movement is a tranquil transition of one of its powers into the other in such a way that each preserves and brings forth the other. So there was this unity that produced the Greek city-state, but there was this underlying contradiction within it. Hegel is being, of course, facetious, but he also does seem to see the Greek world as beautiful. He used this phrase, this word beautiful, in a sense. Ancient Greece, okay, we know it was not immaculate or unsullied by any discord. What Hegel's saying is that human law, divine law, they depend on each other. They cannot survive without each other. This particular social and ethical formation couldn't exist without the human and the divine. But it has a natural basis. It's not got a human, it's not got a, its natural basis is gender difference. The difference between man and women. It's not got a spiritual basis. It's got a gender basis, okay? Male and female. However, by describing this beautiful ethical state, Hegel is making the point that the Greeks felt at home in this type of society. They were not alienated and they fully participated in public life. And on the surface, it was a harmonious society. And that's why every generation since has this idealized picture of this type of life. So if you listen to the video series by Rick Roderick, The Self on the Stage, which is just, he's just so entertaining and I really like it. But he says this about Greek society. He says, I'll do me Rick Roderick route. Were by excellence, the Greeks meant something like this: to be an all-rounder, somebody that you know could write a country song, punch out a big guy, shoot a game of pool, work a full day's work, and was smart enough to read a thick book. And so for the Greeks, excellence was a whole series of traits of human beings, well-rounded in all respects. The Greeks had this idea of excellence, which to us can only be a pale shadow in a society where we mean something so radically different by excellence. By excellent, we would have to mean excellent lawyer, excellent politician, excellent housewife. So excellence in a society which labor is greatly divided can only be, as it were, a pale shadow of the Greek ideal. So we see, even in Rick Roderick, who's really good, that he has this idealization of the Greeks, doesn't he, compared to us. So the appeal of the Greek world, based upon slavery, patriarchy, and warfare as it was, is that it presented this holistic, participatory vision to its citizens who were fully invested in it. That's what we see when we look at it, most of us. Until, of course, they weren't. So, as I said, according to Carl, you've got fishing in the morning, hunting in the afternoon, literary criticism in the evening. That's what Carl says. Okay. So Terry Pinkard says this. He says, the political order did not exist on the basis of externally compelling people to participate. Each citizen freely joined the deliberative body. So, yeah, the Greek city-state, you did have this deliberative assembly, okay? But, and this is the big but, the citizen didn't choose this life. So Greek individuality wasn't like the Western European concept of self-reflection. The Greek male didn't make a choice about what commitments to follow or what goals to pursue. Okay? He was born into and educated into obligatory public service activity, into the service for the warrior state. As David W. Loy says, and I think, by the way, he's a really interesting Lutheran lay preacher. He says, the business of governing shaped the beliefs and character of each citizen. He unreflectively embodied the ethical norms of the polis. So the Greek citizen performed the social role unreflectively, okay? And non-human nature, it was never very far away. So we've got gender difference. We've got the importance of the oracle also for Greek democracy. So although the Greeks deliberated, they also looked for guidance from the outside of themselves. That's what they would consult the oracle, and for the deliberations when they went to war, when they had a baby, when they went to shops or whatever. Okay. So the Greeks performed social roles and didn't have this modern sense of individual interiority. Okay. Like North Korea. I'll give you a really good example. Okay. So only with a bit more fun. But it was a similar type of thing, this idealized society and so on. So Hegel says this. Among them, the Greeks, the habit prevailed of living for the fatherland without any further reflection. So that's a bit North Korean, isn't it? A bit Soviet Union, more North Korea probably. So as Terry Pinkard writes, for the Greek democratic political ideal to be real, citizens had to assume that debate in the public arena was conducted in a way such that each citizen firmly had the good of the polis as his basic unyielding commitment. That commitment itself was beyond deliberation, and commitment to the agreed upon policies had to be equally stringent. To finish off, here are some quotes from Hegel he makes about Greece from other works. Okay. This underlined what I think he means about ancient Greece. Okay. So Greece wasn't his ideal, he saw it as beautiful. Beautiful doesn't mean good, as we know, don't we? So Greek ethical society collapsed, and we'll talk about the collapse next time. We'll go through Antigone, but this is what he says. In Greece, substantial ethical freedom was the basis. Greece was not able to withstand the blossoming of subjective freedom. He also says this. This is not in phenomenology. This is in another work. So subjective freedom consists in the right of the subject to find its satisfaction in its actions. And again, someone else he writes, this satisfaction is not that in which the ancient Greeks experience, Greek experienced through membership of the polis. Rather, it is realized when the will can recognize something or be something only in far as that thing is its own. So what he means is that the Greek polis, social roles, it's people doing stuff that they kind of, not that they have to do because they sort of participate freely, but the model's being created where there's no mediating institutions. If there's you, there's the state, there's the family, and that's it. So it's a bit like North Korea. Okay, so from Highgate Cemetery, from Carl, from me, adios, muchachos.